Welcome back to Voices Between, a Spiritist podcast. We are so glad you've joined us again for this space where we try to bring Spiritist texts to life. Not just, reading them, but really trying to feel the pulse of the words through dramatic reading and, of course, some thoughtful discussion.
It is wonderful to be here.
Yeah.
Today, we are continuing our journey through a truly remarkable book, Our Daily Bread, or O Pão Nosso, in the original Portuguese.
Right.
This is the work, of course, of the Spirit Emmanuel, psychographed by the medium Francisco Candido Beg Xavier.
And for anyone who's been following along with us, you know that Emmanuel has this distinct style. He's dense.
He is.
He takes a verse from the New Testament, something you might have heard 1,000 times, and he turns it like a prism, and suddenly you see all these colors you didn't know were there.
That is the perfect analogy. He writes these commentaries to help us understand the role of Jesus, not just as some historical figure, but as an active force in our daily lives, our spiritual lives.
Exactly.
And today, we are taking a deep dive into chapter 90.
Chapter 90 is titled The Divine Worker. And I have to say, looking at the world right now, how chaotic everything feels, this chapter hit me harder than usual. It really tackles that idea of finding order inside the chaos.
It does. It challenges a very common image we have. We often think of Jesus as the Prince of Peace, right? This calm, almost distant figure of tranquility.
Yeah, the stained glass window version.
Exactly.
Sitting on a throne or maybe just walking gently through a field. But the mission of this deep dive today is to kind of shatter that image, or at least to show what's behind it. We're going to see a different picture. Jesus with a tool in his hand, working, sweating, separating the good from the bad.
It is a gritty, active image. It shifts us from viewing him as this distant royal to the foreman of the work we are all doing. It's about labor, not just status.
So before we unpack all of that imagery, the winnowing fork, the threshing floor, the unquenchable fire, we need to hear the text itself.
Yes. And as we always do, we are going to read the chapter exactly as it was written, word for word. I would invite you, if you can, to close your eyes. Listen not just to the words, but to the rhythm. There's a sense of urgency here that is quite profound.
Let's listen.
The divine worker.
His winnowing fork is in his hand to clear his threshing floor and to gather the wheat into his barn, but he will burn up the chaff with unquenchable fire.
John the Baptist, Luke 3:17.
The apostles and the followers of the Christ from the beginning of the establishment of primitive organizations of the evangelical movement referred to him by diverse names.
Jesus was called Master, Pastor, Messiah, Savior, and Prince of Peace.
All of these titles are just and venerable.
Meanwhile, we cannot forget that along with these sublime invocations came that unexpected presentation from the Baptist.
The precursor designated him as an attentive worker.
His winnowing fork is in his hand to clear his threshing floor and to gather the wheat at the proper time, and who will purify the judgments with the flame of justice and of love which never goes out.
It is interesting to note that John does not introduce the master as one imposing laws full of regulations and parchments.
Nor does he refer to him, according to the old Judaic traditions that awaited the divine messenger, drawn in a carriage of magnificent glories.
He refers to an optimistic, self-sacrificing worker.
A rustic shovel is not lying at his side, but rather always remains vigilant in his hands.
In his spirit reigns the hope of cleansing the earth that was confided to his saving guidelines.
For all those who live persisting in the terrestrial services longing for a better era, maintain your heart open to the devotion to the cause of the gospel of the Christ.
Let us not be refrained by difficulties or ingratitude.
Let us unfold our activities with that precious stimulus of faith, because ahead of us, blessing our humble cooperation, is that divine worker who will clear the thresh floor of the world.
Okay, so let's reflect on what we just read. I have to be honest, every time I hear that opening quote from John the Baptist, I flinch a little. He will burn up the chaff with unquenchable fire. It just feels heavy.
It is heavy. It's visceral.
It sounds like Judgment Day, like the kind of terrifying sermon that scares people away from religion, But Emmanuel, he takes this terrifying image and somehow finds optimism in it, so we really need to break this down.
I agree completely. And to understand the optimism, we have to understand the tool, the winnowing fork.
Right, so this wasn't a weapon, even though it sort of sounds like one. It was.
Yeah.
It was agricultural tech.
Correct. You have to picture the scene. The harvest is done.
Yeah.
You have piles of stalks on the ground, the threshing floor. But the grain, the food, the part that actually sustains life, is hidden inside this hard, inedible casing called chaff.
You have to get out.
You have to get it out. And you can't do it gently. You have to beat the stalks. That's the threshing. But now you just have a mess on the floor. Valuable grain, all mixed up with useless husks.
So how do you separate it?
You take the winnowing fork, which is like a big, broad shovel, and you throw the whole mixture into the air.
You throw it up.
Yes, because the wind does the work for you. The chaff is light, it's dry, the wind just blows it away. The wheat is heavy, it's solid, it falls right back down to the floor.
That is such a powerful metaphor for life, isn't it? I mean, think about a crisis, a personal crisis, or even what we see happening in the world. It feels like we're being thrown into the air. Everything is chaotic.
That is the winnowing moment. And notice what happens then. The superficial things, the chaff of our lives, they get blown away. Maybe it's our ego, false friends, our obsession with status. When the crisis hits, when that wind blows, only the heavy stuff, the real stuff, lands back on the floor.
So Emmanuel is saying that Jesus, as the divine worker, is the one holding that fork. He's orchestrating this tossing into the air.
Precisely. And this is where the Spiritist view is so vital. We often think, why is God letting this happen? But through this lens, the chaos isn't a punishment. It's a separation. It's the only way to get the wheat of our spirit out from the chaff of our illusions.
But then we have to talk about the chaff, where it goes. The text says he will burn it with unquenchable fire. And I can just hear someone listening thinking, okay, that sounds like hell. That sounds like eternal damnation.
It's one of the most misunderstood concepts, I think. But Emmanuel clarifies it so beautifully. He calls it the flame of justice and of love which never goes out.
A flame of love that burns. That seems like a contradiction.
Well, think about a forest fire. In nature, fire is the great recycler. It burns away the dead wood, the debris, all the things that are choking out new growth. It actually clears the way for regeneration.
So the fire doesn't destroy the person. It destroys the debris around the person.
Exactly. The chaff represents our vices, our selfishness, our ignorance. Those things are unusable in the divine economy. They have to go. And the fire is unquenchable, not because it tortures forever, but because the divine law is just relentless. It will not stop working until the purification is complete.
That completely changes the tone. It's not, I'm going to burn you because I hate you. It's, I'm going to burn away this infection because I love you and I won't stop until you're healthy.
It is the ultimate form of tough love. And that drive of the universe toward balance, toward justice and love, it's infinite. It never breaks.
Right.
It is the primary tool of the divine worker.
And that connects to the other big contrast in this chapter, right? The way we talk about Jesus, Emmanuel lists the titles, Master, Messiah, Savior. Those are all titles of someone who has arrived. They're static.
Yes. They imply a hierarchy. He's up there, we're down here.
And then John the Baptist just throws this curveball. He gives an unexpected presentation, an attentive worker.
And you have to remember the context here. First century Judea. They were living under Roman occupation. They were desperate for a Messiah. But what did that look like in their imagination?
A king. A general, someone in a carriage of magnificent glories, like the text says, someone who would kick down the doors and take over.
A political savior, someone to fix their external problems with power. But Jan introduces a worker with a rustic shovel. I mean, that is shocking. A king holds a scepter. A laborer holds a shovel.
And Emmanuel points out a detail that I totally missed the first time I read this. He says the shovel is not just lying at his side.
It always remains vigilant in his hands.
That word vigilant, it's so powerful. It implies he never clocks out. He's not resting. He is constantly, actively working the soil of the world.
It completely dismantles the idea of a passive salvation. You know, that idea that Jesus did all the work so I can just sit back and relax. Well, if the master is working tirelessly with a shovel in his hand, what did that say about what we should be doing?
It says we should probably pick up a shovel too. Which brings us to the part of the text that I think is the most applicable to the daily grind. Emmanuel speaks to all those who live persisting in the terrestrial services, longing for a better era.
That's just a beautiful way of describing anyone who is tired. Anyone who looks at the state of the world, the anger, the division, and just feels overwhelmed.
Or even just in your own life. You try to be kind, you try to do the right thing, and you get nothing back. Or worse. That brings us to that word Emmanuel uses, ingratitude.
Ingratitude is the great test of the worker, isn't it? If we're working for applause, ingratitude stops us cold. If we need that thank you and it doesn't come, we drop the shovel. We say, why bother?
I feel that. But Emmanuel says, let us not be refrained by difficulties or ingratitude. How do we actually do that, though? I mean, it's easier said than done.
We do it by shifting our identity. The text invites us to see ourselves as humble cooperators.
Cooperators.
Think about it like this. Imagine a massive skyscraper being built. You are a bricklayer. Your job is just to lay your line of bricks perfectly. You are not the architect. You're not the foreman. You don't have to carry the weight of the entire blueprint on your shoulders.
That takes so much pressure off. I don't have to save the world. I just have to lay my brick.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And if someone walks by and criticizes your brick or doesn't even notice it, it doesn't matter. Because the foreman notices. And this, for me, is the climax of the chapter, that last sentence.
Go on.
Because ahead of us, blessing our humble cooperation, is that divine worker who will clear the threshed floor of the world.
Ahead of us. That direction is so important. He's not behind us, pushing. He's not above us, judging. He is ahead of us.
He is clearing the path.
Yeah.
He's doing the heavy lifting of sorting the history of the world, that winnowing we talked about, the separation on a planetary scale. That's his job. Our job is just to cooperate in our own little corner.
It changes how I see all the chaos we were talking about. If Jesus is ahead of us, clearing the floor, then the chaos isn't an accident. It's part of the clearing process.
Yes. We are living through a time of planetary transition, a massive winnowing. We see old ideas crumbling. We see truth and lies battling it out. It looks like a complete mess.
Well,
But if you trust the worker, you realize this is just the moment the grain is thrown into the air.
and the wind is blowing away the chaff.
Exactly. And it requires patience. Emmanuel says we have to be persisting. The winnowing doesn't happen overnight. It takes time for the wheat to fall.
But the promise is that the floor will be cleared.
The promise is that the worker is too attentive for evil to win in the end. His shovel is vigilant.
That is such a relief. It lets you be what Emmanuel calls optimistic. And it's not a naive optimism that ignores all the bad stuff. It's an optimism based on the fact that the one in charge knows what he's doing.
And he's in the mud with us.
So let's bring this down to a practical level for everyone listening. Tomorrow morning, when the alarm goes off, what does this look like?
I think it starts with a visualization. When you go into a difficult situation, a tense meeting, a family argument, even just reading the news, visualize that worker ahead of you.
See the winnowing fork in his hand.
And ask yourself, what is the wheat here? And what is the chaff?
That's good. So instead of getting angry at the chaff, the insults, the nonsense, just recognize it for what it is. Let the wind take it.
And just focus on gathering your wheat, your patience, your integrity, your love. That's all you're responsible for gathering into the barn.
And if you don't get a thank you for it,
You remember that you are a cooperator. Your payment comes from the divine worker, not from the people around you. Your real wage is your own spiritual growth, and that is guaranteed.
let us not be refrained by difficulties. That's the mantra. It's about resilience. It's about realizing that the fire we feel, the burnout, the stress, it might actually be that unquenchable fire burning away our own ego, our own expectations, leaving us lighter.
That is the ultimate hope, that we come out of this as pure wheat.
It's incredible how a text written decades ago, referencing a text from 2,000 years ago, can feel so urgent today. It's like Emmanuel wrote this for right now.
Truth is always timeless.
Yeah.
The human heart hasn't changed all that much, and the divine worker certainly hasn't.
Well, we want to thank you for joining us on this deep dive. It's a bit heavier than some of our chats, but I think it's a necessary one.
It was a pleasure. These are the conversations that help us navigate the storm.
So as you go about your week, keep your shovel in hand. Don't let the ingratitude stop you. And remember who is walking ahead of you, clearing the floor.
His will be done.
Take care, everyone. We'll see you next time on Voices Between.